Good morning, everyone, and I'm back with reading the Heritage Foundation's top 7 priorities so you don't have to. Today we're on a very ironic one since Elon Musk has become, Alonia, the first lady. Hold big tech accountable. Now, this section was very short and seems to be concerned primarily with one thing, which is they don't like my opinion. They tend to censor me when I spread massive amounts of misinformation, and I don't like it. And you'll kind of see what I mean because they mention very, very frequently throughout this very short section that they feel like big tech is censoring them, and that's why they need to go after them. So let's get into it. The introduction starts, big tech often acts as an enemy of the people, actively undermining free speech and free and fair elections, using algorithms to manipulate users, exposing minors to dangerous and pornographic content, and leaving users' private data vulnerable to cyber criminals and state actors. Tech giants and social media companies censor content with which they disagree, including objective, fact-based opinions and reporting, collude with authoritarian governments like China, side with woke elites, to disproportionately silence conservatives. Heritage Enterprise will pull power back into the hands of American people by holding big tech accountable using antitrust and other laws, proposing new measures to end their abuses. To address the grave concerns surrounding big tech abuses, many lawmakers have introduced imperfect or incomplete legislation. However, these policy development efforts have illuminated the path to constructive reform. The 118th Congress represents a chance to perfect these bills and build consensus around their proposals. By the conclusion of the 118th Congress, achievement of these goals will ensure that big tech reform is ready off the shelf for a conservative president to sign into law in 2025. So just in the introduction alone, they mention they censor conservatives' free speech disproportionately, like 3 times in 3 paragraphs, and then they do it again. There are some other things they mention in here, saying lack of transparency, they could be colluding with foreign governments, which was an accusation we saw thrown out there against TikTok. But they, say that they're colluding with other governments to target legitimate speech, censorship. They're talking about the idea over and over and over again of using antitrust law and investigating these big tech companies specifically because of discrimination against what they call legitimate speech and trying to unduly stifle competition. Meanwhile, they're standing up there buddy-buddy with Elon Musk trying to pull the Rivian deal that would have broken up the electric vehicle market and given more competition. So everything they're saying about, like, this is about antitrust laws, this is about free and fair competition, this is about holding big tech accountable for not creating monopolies, well, we can blatantly see that that's not true from what you're doing right now. And then you see it down here in their proposed reforms. They want to reform the Communication Act of 1934 that existed way before big tech ever did, to strip immunity from tech companies to moderate their content because they say that it censors and chills lawful political speech. And they say in the next paragraph that they're suppressing the viewpoints of American citizens, that they're micro-targeting specific users, and that they want to put limits on data sharing and how personally identifiable information can be used. So they take a little bit of a separate approach there. But really, what we see in 3 out of the 5 paragraphs here is speech, speech, speech. We feel like tech censors us. And then, of course, they bring the kids into it because that's par for the course for most conservative strategies of we need a Kids Online Safety Act in order to develop a parent's guide to educate parents on how technology impacts their children and to create age limits and greater social transparency in social media's use of algorithms. But, there's already supposed to be got age limits on social media. You're supposed to be 13 to sign up for an account. Whether parents are monitoring that or not is a completely different story. But, most parents nowadays, with millennials being in their 30s plus now, they're aware of how algorithms work. They're aware of what the internet is and what's on it. We're not talking to a generation anymore that didn't grow up with that. And I really feel like the viewpoint on kids being involved is just kind of a false flag to cover up the fact that really what we're talking about here is that they want completely unregulated speech online, which is fine and dandy to a certain extent. I was absolutely fine with the idea of net neutrality. It only became a problem when you have people out there that are widely promoting misinformation that is affecting people. But really, as far as I'm concerned, that's the problem of the consumer. If somebody tells you online to drink bleach because it cures COVID, you should probably actually do some research on that first. But we all know that this free speech is going to be probably limited to one side. And that's where my concern comes in, because if it was truly about net neutrality, if it was truly about preserving free speech, I would actually be in full agreement with them. It's nobody's business what I say online, for the most part. Where we disagree is the fact that I see this being enforced to allow their own viewpoints to grow while suppressing other viewpoints, especially because in other areas of this document, we see them talking about media quite a bit and how they're going to go after those in the media that do not support their views. Well, social media is another form of media. So why would I not expect you to also go after the views of those that oppose you? Stay safe, everyone.